Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening wherever you are in the world and whenever you are tuning into this video. My name is James Porcelli.
I'm Brian Thomas.
And welcome to another edition of the Ruthless Talk podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, this weekend we have our fourth annual Ruthless Talk Roundtable, and it is all about SummerSlam, the biggest party of the summer. We got a bunch of special guests that will be a part of this roundtable, a bunch of new faces that have never been on this platform before. But a lot of good people that I've met in the wrestling community that I've met through TikTok and other platforms. So it's going to be a great time to have them on the podcast and talking some pro wrestling and talking some SummerSlam. So make sure you guys check that out. We will be recording that episode as of tomorrow. That should be out sometime on Saturday this coming weekend. So make sure you guys stay notified on YouTube, right? Hit that notification bell on our YouTube channel, so that way you stay alert of when that episode is going to drop, as well as on Spotify and Apple Podcasts whenever that episode drops. But SummerSlam Roundtable, don't miss it out. It's going to be a great time. We're going to go through all the matches, the match cards. We got some big debating questions, so it's going to be a good time overall. And it's always fun to do these roundtables and exchanging, our wrestling knowledge with other people in the community. So it's going to be a good time. So make sure you guys stay tuned for it, man. Our fourth roundtable. Feels like yesterday we just did our first, and now it's already going to be our fourth roundtable. So it's going to be a good time. Can't wait to do it. So make sure you guys stay tuned for it. That's this weekend. We have today, which is Monday Night Raw, and as well as a big opening discussion in our cold open, which we'll get to in just a second. But we'll be talking Monday Night Raw. This was the go-home show to SummerSlam. Of course, a lots to cover. We got CM Punk, who is officially cleared. We got Damian Priest and Gunther in a brawl segment. Cool. We got the Wyatt Six. We have Ilja Dragunov, whose booking continues to be horrendous, and a bunch of other stuff to talk about for Monday Night Raw. We'll get all into that. But first things first, I want us to talk first in this cold open, and that is about Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley has recently just been removed, along with other talents like Tamina, as well as MVP. They have been removed from WWE's internal roster as of a couple days ago. It's been a while since we've heard anything about Lashley. We knew he would develop some type of injury. There were negotiations about an extension of his contract. Bobby Lashley, from what we're heard, was looking for more on his end of the bargain, but Triple H, WWE, other suits and ties, mainly other suits and ties, were not giving him that end of the bargain. So as of right now, Bobby Lashley has been removed from the roster. MVP has been very, very vocal about Triple H and the WWE product, as it's been, and we've heard this, over the course of the last several months, is that MVP was trying to get the Hurt Business back together. For during the course of when Omos and Lashley were feuding at the time. So, and MVP, and for some reason, Triple H just didn't even want to, I guess, no pun intended to Roman, to acknowledge that type of creativity. And it's a real shame, Brian, because, and I'll say this one thing and I'll let you get your thoughts about it. It is the thing, listen, with Bobby Lashley, is he the greatest talker? Can he carry a storyline? Does he have more assets than a lot of other wrestlers do? The answer is no. But the thing is with Bobby Lashley, right? The dude is, even at his age and what he's done over the course of his career for decades now, whether that is from TNA, whether that is here in WWE, and wherever he goes, AEW, New Japan, who the hell knows at this point. But it's a real shame, man, because, outside of the Hurt Business, the last time we ever have seen the Hurt Business fully form, which was close to around during the Thunderdome era, Bobby Lashley, you can make an argument, hasn't really been booked the same since then. And that goes along with people like the other people in the Hurt Business, like Cedric, like Shelton, who's no longer part of the company anymore. And it's weird, right? Because you would think that, okay, Triple H doesn't want to put together the Hurt Business. Maybe they have something more for Bobby Lashley that's going to be just as intriguing as the Hurt Business. And they pair Bobby Lashley with the Street Profits. And we're thinking, okay, this has potential. This could be fun. But there was never really a fine line in why they're truly together. There was never a plan. There was never any creative thought put into it. And you can tell because of how things have transpired with Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits over the course of several weeks and months. So it's a shame to where, yeah, listen, is Bobby Lashley one of my favorites of all time? No. But man, if you pair Bobby Lashley with somebody like MVP, two guys who still have so much to offer and have so much more assets on a Monday Night Raw or a SmackDown, and for some odd reason, Triple H in creative suits and ties just didn't want to do it. To me, it's fucking weird. It just makes absolutely no sense. I mean, for guys to kind of just, I guess, push away in droves to where I guess if you're not eventually a Roman Reigns or a Becky Lynch that we're not going to pay the high dollar for, then you're just expendable, right? Bobby Lashley has become expendable. People like, Dijak, Cameron Grimes, who have also been released, Shelton Benjamin, are just expendable at this point. And it's just a shame, right? Because we're not just talking about a random, just average dude, right? This is Bobby Lashley, who, again, if you pair up with somebody like MVP, and we've seen it with the Hurt Business in the Thunderdome era, can do a lot of special things in this company, can be a big, valuable asset. And it's just odd of how creative ties are just like, yeah, we have nothing for you. Sorry, budget cuts. See you later. We're not going to give you all this money that you're asking for. But Brian, what are your thoughts, man, about Bobby Lashley, MVP, and what he's had to say, or at least expressing his frustrations about Triple H and creative, and Bobby Lashley overall being removed from WWE's internal roster, man? What are your thoughts?
Man, there's a lot to unpack there, man. But I mean, at the end of the day, I kind of feel like, yeah, in a lot of ways, it's the same old story.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, Bobby Lashley has never been one of my favorites, or per se, anything like that. And no, he's not the greatest on the microphone.
No.
But he's a power move wrestler. Like that's and there's many spots throughout wrestling for that. So I feel, and I know Lashley's had runs here and there. I mean, if I'm being honest, I don't think WWE ever really tried to push him, make him really get behind him in anything. I mean, he had his IC runs, and you can talk about the Hurt Business, and it's like as soon as it starts catching on, they break it up, and then you try to, I guess, make Hurt Business 2.0 with the Street Profits, and you don't really do shit with that either. No. But you mentioned a whole slew of guys there, where it's Bobby Lashley, it's Cedric Alexander, Shelton Benjamin, who, we've talked about that class that came out of OVW back in the day. Granted, there's much more that goes into a professional wrestler, but arguably he was the best pure athlete of all of them. And that's saying something when you're talking about Brock Lesnar and John Cena and Batista, So yeah, man, and you can even point to a guy currently, Montez Ford, who you and I have mentioned going back a year ago. This guy could have been pushed as a single star, and and he's. I mean, fast forward a year later, I mean, he's worse off now than he was even when the Street Profits were kind of just had run its course,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's unfortunate, man, but it's. I mean, yeah, it's not new. Like,
no,
it's. And as much as people want to deny it, explain it away, excuse it away, or whatever, No, that's part of it. Their skin color, what people are willing to give them, and please don't come at me or people pointing to like, oh well, Roman Reigns has been the champion and he yeah, I get it. Don't point to the token. Don't tell me Barack Obama was president and everything's cool now. The fuck out of here, man. So that's the reality of it. I think that probably has something to do with it. Whether it's at the forefront or not, you're just not willing to give these talents who have proven themselves to some degree. You've never really been fully behind them. Yeah. So I don't know, man. I mean, hopefully I don't think he's a guy that fits in something like AEW.
Right.
Maybe a TNA. That might be a good fit for Lashley. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, and the thing is too with Lashley, right? It's like, when we talk about wrestlers, and I've stated before about people like Dijak, currently right now with people like Dragunov and many others, right? Selena Vega has also been one of them as of late.
Yeah.
People have been very outspoken about Selena Vega and at least giving her more to offer than what she's doing right now, right? And the same thing goes for Lashley. It's just like when we talk about certain wrestlers and like, oh, you always get like wrestlers, oh, they deserve more, they deserve this. And I'm like, it's not that we want to give them or they should be just getting titles upon titles and be given the world, right? Because I mean, again, Bobby Lashley is not a guy that's even in the middle of his prime, freaking in the early 2000s or whatever, in his days in TNA. He was never a guy that, like I mentioned earlier, doesn't have that many assets as a lot of people do. But it's just that it's interesting in regards to how you take somebody like Bobby Lashley, and his booking, if you think about it, Brian, is very, very simplistic. I mean, he's a big dude, right? You have a mouthpiece and MVP. You got all these other assets with Shelton Benjamin, Cedric. It's pretty simplistic booking, right? Like the Hurt Business, right? It sounds cool. It sounds badass to at least to a degree. And it's crazy how people, and even with Ronda Rousey to a degree. Now I know Ronda Rousey gets a bad rap, and for a certain degree, it's well deserved of what she says about wrestling. Saying that wrestling's fake and it's just this and this. And like on that degree, it's like, okay, right. Ronda, pump the brakes. But if you really think about it, with Ronda Rousey's booking, I mean, she's out there trying to cut soliloquies of fucking promos, when in reality, all she needs to do is do some one or two liners, and that's it. The same thing goes for Bobby Lashley, right? Bobby Lashley's out there for majority of his WWE run. Like, he's out there cutting like essays upon promos. And yeah, some of them are more decent than others, but the dude's not known for talking, right? He's known for doing those one-liners, those two-liners, and MVP is there to pick up the scraps and to be, again, the mouthpiece for him. It's just interesting. And it can do, and that simplistic booking alone can do so much for the product, right? And it's just, and like you said, Brian, it's interesting. And again, it's not just a Triple H thing, even though I say it's also a Triple H thing, because all the heat right now, at least from MVP and how outspoken he is right now, is towards Triple H. And yeah, again, he's the head of creative, so who's going to get the most heat? It's Triple H, because he's
That's what I want to make clear too, man. Yeah, it's not just Triple H. It was Vince McMahon. It was who go down the list of wrestling promoters, in the 90s, 80s, 70s. Yeah, it was all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just for so long, man, it's just like the Street Profits and Lashley. And this is what's just so weird about Triple H's booking, is that at least with Vince, Vince, at least during the time when the Hurt Business was a thing, that's when Vince was still pretty much a part of head of creative. You could say Triple H had his hand in as well, but Vince was still there. We knew Vince was still calling the shots, and that's when the Hurt Business was still a big commodity. Now with Triple H legit running everything, now he's running the ship. And ever since then, Bobby Lashley's booking has just been, you can argue, even worse than what Vince McMahon was doing. Honestly, it's like, again, with the Street Profits, with BFAB added into it, and him being almost like a tweener as well occasionally, because we didn't know what the Street Profits and Lashley were, right? They were trying to be more proclaimed as the heels, and then all of a sudden Triple H just went back and had the Street Profits do their same exact shtick, and now they're just baby faces again after a course of several weeks. It's like, what are we doing here? MVP, a guy who has been in this industry for a very long time,
Yep.
right? That has done business with people like Triple H and suit and ties for a very long time. I'm sure to a certain degree knows what he's talking about and knows how people like Lashley and other wrestlers and talents can benefit from this. And for Triple H to be like, no, we got the Street Profits and Lashley. That's what's going to freaking make freaking Bobby Lashley a star, right?
Mm-hmm.
Come on, man. Seriously? So, because it would be one thing, Brian, if Triple H really had something uber creative for him to turn down MVP's ideas about the Hurt Business and such. And his response was the Street Profits and Lashley to go absolutely fucking nowhere. And to this day, it just boggles my freaking mind.
Let me make this illustration here if I can. I'm like Shawn Michaels and Kofi Kingston, right? I remember when Shawn Michaels initially won his first WWE title, and it was a whole storyline built. The boyhood dream. Everything. It was fucking magical, right? Kind of, you can make the same comparison with Kofi Kingston when he won his title, right? I mean, it was a huge celebration, the New Day, the whole story, fucking great. Would they have ever done? And I'm not saying that Kofi Kingston is as good as Shawn Michaels is a GOAT. I'll give him that. If they had Shawn Michaels then go out there and lose to Brock Lesnar in fucking 10 seconds, what do you think becomes of Shawn Michaels? Like, the Shawn Michaels that we know now probably doesn't happen if some bullshit like that happens, right? You build this whole story, you finally give him the title, and then boom, you take it from him in 10 seconds. Mm-hmm. That A, wouldn't happen to a guy like Shawn Michaels or a Bret Hart or whatever, and B, we'd be talking about him much differently if it did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the thing, I mean, you can make the argument too. I mean, with Lashley, Lashley's freaking his WWE title run was pretty much a footnote. I mean, I can hardly remember anything from that freaking title reign. So, and look, listen, we have our certain takes about Vince McMahon and how he ran things over the course of, the last 10 plus years or so. And, of course, not just the booking wise, but just who the person is in general. But you even there's still little hints and proof in how things could still be run now. And can it be to what you're saying, Brian, in regards to a skin color type situation? Yeah, sure. I mean, listen, and there's always going to be a certain bias with this company in regards to just who they want to push, right? Vince McMahon had his people, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, they have their people. And that's that's just the way it is. But the unfortunate thing is that, like I mentioned, we're not telling people like Triple H and Shawn Michaels to say, hey, give them all the titles and the best booking imaginable. No, we just want you to give these people that we're outspoken about and give them a lot more to offer than what you're giving them. Right. And it's just, and that's just what it just comes down to. We know that, for certain individuals don't need to be holding on to certain world titles or any other title or any other accolade, because they're not in position to do such, nor is it the time of it isn't truly beneficial. Right. But the thing is, man, I say it about Selena. I've said it about Bobby Lashley right now. I've said it over the course of, again, even people like Dijak, Cameron Grimes, and so many other people.
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
Just that we're not asking this company to throw every championship and world title on them and give them the world, right? If you want to push people like a Roman Reigns, if you want to push people like, again, back in the day, like Hulk Hogan, Shawn Michaels, and all these other people, that's great. But there's also all of these other people that have earned, right? Not have deserved, but they have earned to be getting a lot more than they have more to offer and a lot more to give to wrestling fans than what they've been given. And that's just what it comes down to, man. And the least that you could have given us for Bobby Lashley, for somebody that, isn't the greatest performer that we've seen over the last 10 to 20 years, but himself and the Hurt Business is just, it's I'm losing train of thought here, but
and let me make this point too. You remember, I mean, even years ago, a couple years back when, unfortunately, right before Bray got sick, they were about to put him in a match with Bray. I don't even know. It might have been the Fiend
with Bray, with Bray. Mm-hmm.
It was like, and at the time we were like, it does like what. It was shitty booking, completely shitty.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, man. And like you said, it's not that you need to give them or hand them things. And even from the standpoint I'm coming at it, is like, if you have these people and you're trying to create an angle or go on a storyline or whatever, don't polish a turd and, tell me this is great. Don't half-ass it. Like, get behind them.
Yeah.
Stop, the 50-50 booking or, this member's gone and now this member's in. And,
absolutely.
That's the issue.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because clearly, because we can see it, right? Not just as critics, as podcasters, but just as fans, that we can tell when somebody or when this company is truly trying to back somebody, right? Braun Breaker is a great example. Like, clearly this company is very high on Braun Breaker and they want to push him to be a top star. There's nothing wrong with that, right? People, Sonya Deville recently, since she's came back, she's been collecting some W's. The company, at least as of right now, are very behind this woman and this faction that Sonya or Zoe Starks.
I don't trust that either. Even with them, I don't trust it, man. Like, they're good.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, right? We can only take it to a certain degree, but. And again, people like Roman, people like Becky, Seth, and you can name all the people, even from the Attitude Era, right? People like Stone Cold and Hulk Hogan. You can go down the line, right? But then you see little details, right? And we're going to get into one specific person to start off Monday Night Raw. But again, from Dijak, right from the jump, frickin' Cameron Grimes, since he's debuted, you can tell right away that there was nothing creative planned for these people. But yet they throw them out there because at least they're getting TV time and some shine, right? But the reality is that just because you're getting more TV time doesn't mean that it's not accomplishing anything. Then what's the point of giving them this TV time when we can clearly see that there's no creative plans or any thought put into this situation? And since day one, there was never, and I mean never, was any creative plans thought from Street Profits and Bobby Lashley since they started, right? Again, it sounded cool and fans were hopeful, like me and you, Brian, but as it further went on, man, we can tell, especially then the whole heel face turn shtick and how just abrupt that was. There was no fucking plan, man. None. And that's what gets us frustrated, man, is that tell us that there's no creative plans without telling us that there's no creative plans. And that's just it, man. So look, who knows where Bobby Lashley goes? A lot of people are mentioning a Hurt Business reunion in AEW.
No fucking way, man.
Dude, I don't know. Some people say TNA. I don't think Bobby Lashley should go back to TNA. I don't know what else Bobby Lashley needs to do in TNA if
no,
he go back to his career. Right.
I mean, I just can't see the Hurt Business unless, I mean, like I said, you do have a Shelton Benjamin that, granted, I mean, he's, we're not talking about 20 years ago, but I'm sure he can still pull off like an AEW type match with the flips and whatever. But yeah, I don't think the way that AEW books or at least the iteration and what we've seen of Bobby Lashley over his career, that would be horrible. Horrible.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the last thing I know we don't trust, right, is AEW booking. Because the last thing, honestly, that AEW needs, bro, is just more talent right? And then that just continues to leave other talent just to be left on the shelf, like just collecting dust, right?
He'll have a couple matches with Wardlow because they're both meaty men slapping meat, and it's not going to mean a damn thing. It's going to go nowhere. Going to go nowhere.
Right. Freaking Lashley and freaking Luchasaurus or Kill Switch.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
No storyline, no nothing. And you expect, and then you're going to expect them to go out there like two guys like that and have a 25-minute banger. Nah, bro.
Yeah, no. And that's the thing, man. I mean, listen, we know it sounds cool, and we know, and we've said this about talents all the time. We know what they're gonna bring to the table.
Yeah.
Whatever creative throws at them. But again, we know just from watching it with our own two eyes is that there's no plan. There's really nothing that's truly drawing into, especially other fans that don't know much about the Hurt Business and other entities like a Cedric or a Shelton, if you bring them in and their history. So, it's again a thing with AEW to where one, your actions have to prove it to us that you're creatively behind these people. But also number two is just that you already have so many people. It's such a bloated roster over there. Right. Yeah. And listen, and AEW honestly right now has a really good thing going on with MJF being as a heel once again. And, the match that they had with Will Ospreay, and they're going to have another match coming up at All In. I freaking wish them luck to top that freaking Iron Man match that we got for free last week. But listen, I mean, there's good things over there. The Blood and Guts match, I still need to watch that match, by the way. I haven't even seen the match for the most part, but I'm in Mercedes and Britt, and I'm forgetting her name, Brian, that just made her debut freaking last night.
I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Camilla, I believe.
I think it's something like a Camilla or something like that.
Camilla, yeah, something like that. I'm not sure. Apologies if I'm botching her name.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it seems like her and Mercedes are gonna be forming this duo, which honestly sounds pretty freaking cool. Especially Mercedes, she's kind of more of starting to turn into like this chicken shit heel because she's the CEO and she's above everybody else. And then,
right.
So I think it fits. I just hope that with Camilla, again, whoever mispronouncing her name again, this woman who made her debut last night is booked like a freaking beast. I guess if she's going to be the muscle for Mercedes, I guess that's what they're doing in regards to this feud with Britt Baker. Jamie Hayter, does Jamie Hayter come back and come to the aid for Britt, and you can form this, this whole story where Jamie Hayter now gets involved in this because she has a history with Britt.
This is the only segment I watched, or the match from last night, the Britt and Hikaru Shida. And, it was a good match. We've seen it before. But, I mean, I just feel like this is a story, a feud you're trying to create here with your two top female stars in Mercedes and Britt. And I got to say, man, go back and listen to the crowd reaction, through the whole match. And even when Mercedes comes out there and then the sneak attack on Britt, man, it was crickets. I mean, they did not give a shit,
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's part of because honestly, I'm not quite sure who this woman is, full disclosure, but I feel that's kind of where sometimes AEW shoots themselves in the foot, where and even the hardcore AEW fans pride themselves on oh, well, this person is in, Lucha Underground and they won the AAA title, they didn't have a clue who this woman was. And it was evident. And it was just crickets, and you expect this big beatdown and whatever, and it just wasn't that, man. And I mean, I hope it can picks up steam. I think if Hayter does return, I think that would bode well if you have these four women. But if not, man, I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it definitely looked a very simplistic type of debut.
Yeah.
for the most part, because this woman came from NWA. She's a former NWA women's champion.
Okay.
So a lot of people, the hardcore wrestling fans, know who she is. But like you said, Brian, majority of these wrestlers that are not familiar of NWA and, freaking these other indie promotions, yeah, they're not going to know who she is. So if you're going to debut this person, it's got to be like you
could have teased it
wall.
or something. Like even like Mercedes could have teased it. Something like it was just a fucking out of nowhere, no build. Who is this person? Why is she here? And yes, I understand that'll be explained. Hopefully,
that'll be right. Yeah,
but I don't. Who knows with AEW? But it wasn't good. It wasn't good last night. It just wasn't.
No, I mean, I'll take your word for it in regard. I wasn't able to catch most of AEW. Your boy was watching the Mets defeat the New York Yankees.
Oh man! God damn it!
Listen, bro. That's a different discussion. Shout out to all my New York Mets fans. For all you Yankee fans, for you, Brian, I have sympathy for you. For other Yankee fans, fuck you. That's all I'm gonna say.
And yeah, I am with the Baltimore, the O's, and the Ravens here. Look. I like the Orioles and the Yankees. Suck it.
I love it. So yeah, man. Look, I'll take your word for it though, Brian, in regards to the crowd, because she fought her Hikaru Shida, correct? That's who she fought, and she's still a face, correct?
Shida?
Yeah, Shida.
Yeah, as far as I know, yeah.
Right. So that's what I mean. Face. And face, come on, man. I've said this about WWE so many frickin' times.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're telling me, hey, like the match was crickets, and like you said, this woman who debuted frickin' last night, because nobody knows much about NWA and her being a women's champion over there. So yeah, that doesn't shock me. And like you said, it's going to be further explained. So we'll see where it goes. But yeah, Brian, continue.
I'll just for that match in particular, I hear what you're saying, because face and face, and yeah, like. I mean, people were excited. It was Britt's first match back. And I'll give them a pass on this, just assuming that it being her first match back, she wants to be in there, somebody she's comfortable with. She's been in there so many times with Shida, so.
Which it was a good match,
that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you want to put Britt in there with somebody, like you said, is familiar, so that way you play to more of her strengths and you hide her weaknesses by putting someone. Yeah, but then
still, it doesn't make sense, like the crowd, involvement. And,
right? Yeah,
it fucks everything up. Yeah,
exactly. And this is what I mean sometimes, Brian, about things are not plan ahead. You know what I mean? Like if you were going to have Britt Baker have a returning match. Right, to showcase, hey, she still got it. You still got it, right? All that stuff, and you put her in with Hikaru Shida, who, yeah, I'm sure she has a lot of experience with, and they have good chemistry together. So in the meantime, right, if you are going to put Britt Baker as a face, and you need to put her in with somebody who she's very familiar with, why not it be another fucking heel? So that way it doesn't diminish Hikaru Shida and her, unless she's still a babyface. Again, I don't know what Hikaru Shida has been doing at all. I mean, she's been a babyface ever since she's been a part of AEW. So I would need to know more about what Hikaru Shida is doing. But as of right now, ever since I've been watching Hikaru Shida, she's been a face. So, but that would make sense, Brian, to, like you mentioned, that the crowd just didn't really care, or there wasn't really much enthusiasm with this match. They're like, oh, okay, cool, it's good to see Britt, but she's in there with another face. So what is that doing for Hikaru Shida, right? Good for Britt. She won the match. It's her returning match. But what about Shida, who's also another top face, top women's wrestler? It just, I don't get it, man. Listen, I say the same thing about WWE. I'll say the same thing about AEW. But yeah, I mean, look, I still stand by that there's a lot of more hope with AEW now more than ever. I just hope that the numbers start to back it up and we start to see people, the ratings and viewers start to come back. And we saw that from the previous Dynamite, to where They didn't get to 800,000, but they were at 795,000. That's pretty. That's still pretty darn
better
good.
than they've done in months.
Absolutely, and hopefully now that continues to progress. That this was like a big weekly pay-per-view show. So, is this finally the freaking week that they do get over 800,000? So, but we'll see in regards to it, man. But yeah, again, the blood and guts match, I still need to go back and watch. Toni Storm and Mariah May. I mean, those two. Toni Storm, I did see make her return. In regards to it, I still need to go back and watch the actual match. There's still a lot more that I need to look at in regards to Mariah May and what she's capable of, what she needs to improve. But I mean, that feud also has a lot of potential. There's a lot of heat animosity there, and we still got a couple more weeks till All In. So, but we'll see, man. And we'll talk a lot more about AEW. Once SummerSlam is come and gone, there's a lots of stuff to talk about AEW, and we'll get to that when the time comes. But let's go. Let's get into Monday Night Raw. Let's jump into the show. There's a couple topics that we do want to go over, so we're going to jump straight into things. The very first thing, Brian, that I have to mention, and I've been beating a dead horse about this person for weeks, and that is Ilja Dragunov, right? Look, listen. I was told to be patient. I was told that this dude was eventually going to rack up some victories and some W's, right? It's like, oh, don't worry. He's trying to get his feet wet. He's trying to get his foot in the door, which doesn't make any fucking sense, right? When you debut a star like Dragunov, you need to portray him as a winner, not as a fucking loser, because he's been losing more than he has been winning, right? And once again, they put him in this match, or in a match with Breaker. Brian, can somebody tell me why we constantly put Ilja Dragunov and Braun Breaker, two guys that just got to this main roster, and put them in a match last night? Why? And the worst thing that they also did this past Monday, Brian, was they had the referee call off the match. There was a spear delivered on the outside, and the referee, he's so concerned about poor little Ilja Dragunov, he had to call the match and ring the bell. The fuck? We're at the point to where Dragunov gets beaten up so much by people like frickin' Braun Breaker, and he's losing so simplistically. He's becoming a third wheel to his storyline with Sami Zayn, Braun Breaker's storyline with Sami Zayn. It's just like, I would be fine, Brian, if you're actually somewhat protecting Dragunov. They're not protecting Dragunov in these positions at all. His character is supposed to be this unhinged character, right? This badass unhinged character. And this dude is more freaking fragile than a fucking gingerbread house. It's fucking crazy. I mean, he's just week after week, he's being portrayed as a jobber, because all he does is, when it's all said and done, he's on the ground. He's getting his fucking ass whooped. I don't understand. You should be paving a path for Dragunov for his own success, not to build up Braun Breaker. You keep these two people fucking separate. Yeah. It makes no fucking sense. Have we never heard of jobber matches before? Where are the jobbers? Where are the local talents? Where are the phone calls to call up these local talents and say, hey, we'll pay you a couple $100,000 if you do the job to one of our top talent.
A couple hundred. It ain't going to be a couple 100,000.
100,000 million, whatever the fuck it is, right? But anyway, my point is that let's do that and not sacrifice one of our other talents another loss to derail their booking, right? It doesn't make any sense to me. It frustrates the shit out of me, because it's one thing, right? And I'm so passionate about this, Brian, because it would be one thing if we're talking about just some other random dude, like a Ricochet, like a Pete Dunne, whatever fucking name you want to throw. This is Dragunov, man. I mean, this is a guy that has so many assets to his game. The guy's name, or he is portrayed as being invincible. That should be freaking booking 101. You make this dude almost somewhat feel invincible, like freaking Braun Breaker's being booked right now. And they're doing the exact opposite To make us feel sorry about Ilja Dragunov? That's not his character, guys.
Right.
Like, we always want to play the sympathy card. Oh, he's the underdog. He's getting beat up. And like every time he throws an H-bomb or whatever maneuver, he's freaking quivering in pain. I'm like, again, this dude's freaking, he's more brittle than a fucking Pop-Tart. I don't get it. So, Brian, I know that's a lot, but your thoughts, man, is we're going to talk more about, of course, Braun Breaker. He's got an upcoming match with Sami Zayn at SummerSlam for the IC title. But your thoughts, man, in regards to Braun Breaker, of course, but also Ilja Dragunov and where he's going right now. Because from the way he's been booked, man, it's clear as day that even like we talked about with Lashley, there's no creative plans. There's nothing that tells me that they're behind this dude at all. But what are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I like this dude down in NXT. He was one of the guys that I thought had, could have been called up months ago, a year ago. And yeah, I'm not a fan of his current booking. The only thing I will say about last night's in particular match, and I don't know if anything has come out or, I'll see in the next couple of days, but it really did look to me that when he took that spear, like, that his head like hit pretty violently and fast against the ring apron.
Yeah.
And if it did, I mean, there's no way he didn't come out of that with at least a concussion. I know that the referee, she went out there and checked on him, and then a couple, other people came out there, and it didn't seem so serious. So I don't know if that was part of the storyline, but just looking at it, like, if his head did hit that ring apron, which it looked like to me it did, yeah, he legitimately got fucked up there. There's no way you can just bounce up after that.
Yeah.
But even that being said, I mean, I'm sure Breaker was still booked to win the match, however it played out. I don't know why these two guys are, kind of in a feud here together. I would prefer them to be off doing their separate things. So yeah, I mean that's all I got to say about that. I mean, if Dragunov really, did hit his head, man, I hope he is okay, because that, I mean, that could be really bad if he did, man, because that was, again, unless it was just so quick and I missed it, and maybe he just glanced off of it, but it looked pretty violent to me, man. I don't know.
I mean, I haven't heard anything about a further concussion injury.
Yeah.
I would have heard something about it, but no, I did see the spot of the spear from the apron, but I haven't heard anything in regards to a concussion over the last several days. So as of right now, until I hear something,
I mean, yeah,
he's probably fine.
If he shows up on Monday Night Raw, I guess that'll tell you everything we need to know.
Everything you need to know. That's right. But no, but I did see the spot that you're talking about, Brian. It definitely looked very scary in regards to the landing. But again, I have not heard anything about an injury, about a concussion. So, and who knows if he shows up on Raw this coming week for the Raw after SummerSlam. That I'm sure will tell you everything you need to know in regards to it. But
it's
but
like
even
one of those things. Like, if this is the storyline and that's how it was supposed to go, yeah, man, I'm not. That's just bad for Dragunov.
And it's,
but if it was a legit accident, shit happens.
Absolutely. And the thing is too, it's not even just that whole spot with the spear. It's also it's everything that's been built up to this point now.
Right.
To where his last victory is from a guy that's no longer even fucking here. and the fact that, and I don't even know if you noticed this, Brian, too, but it's also, and listen, Dragunov is great at selling. Like, this dude is amazing at selling shit. But like, and this is why I keep saying, like, this dude is more brittle than a fucking gingerbread house. Every time he lays an H-bomb, every time. Like, he didn't do this as much in NXT, and I'm noticing a lot more now. Yep. He always has to quiver, and he's like selling, like, oh, my arm, oh, my knee, my back. It's just like, this dude is just that fucking fragile, or like that's how he's being portrayed to oversell. Now, I love that he's overselling and trying to sell the matchup, that he's trying to, that these other punches and kicks and stuff are really playing a toll to him. But like, it's at a point to where it's a little too much to where he
Yeah.
comes across just really weak. It's just little things like that where I'm just like, all right, listen.
He wasn't doing that in NXT like he is up here now with, like sell it when you take the move, but if you're on offense and delivering the move,
And it's
yeah,
and it's all the time, bro. It's almost
all
every single offensive maneuver. He's like quivering, like in pain. It's just like, what are we doing? I don't understand it, man. It really baffles me. But hopefully Dragunov is okay. I've watched that same exact spot over and over again, and you can definitely see like maybe at least piece of the back of his head did get hit off the apron. Again, I have not heard anything about an injury as of right now. Maybe we do hear something about it, and we'll know if he's even on Monday Night Raw. Well, even if he's not on Monday Night Raw, I mean, we've seen this dude on Monday Night Raw, not on Monday Night Raw as well. He's been off the show and on the show. So even if he's off the show, that doesn't really tell me much. But until I hear something, Brian, that's when I'll be like, all right, like, okay, that was a legit maybe referee stoppage, and they try to prolong the story after that. But until then, man, my statement still stands about it, at least not just from that spot alone, but how Dragunov has booked since he's debuted on the main roster, which has been absolutely horrendous. It's been fucking horrible. Great for Breaker. I don't mind if you want to build up Breaker, and we'll talk more about Breaker and Sami Zayn at the Roundtable event in regards to their upcoming Intercontinental title match. But man, Dragunov needs to be paving his own path, dude. Like, it's common sense to not take a call up, right? A guy that's just new to the roster and another guy that's new to the roster, and throw them together. It should be common sense if you're Triple H to be like, yeah, I shouldn't put these two together. So I don't know, but moving on, I can go on for hours talking about it. But again, I don't want to beat up a dead horse that I've already have. But so yeah, just hopefully again, Dragunov's okay. But again, man, it's a shame that a guy has so many assets, has so much to offer, and this is the first impression that fans are getting from this dude, and it's a shame. But let's move on, man. Let's talk about CM Punk. CM Punk, who came out, cut a promo, and states that he is cleared. He is cleared to compete. You know, Drew McIntyre, of course, comes out. Adam Pearce comes out to make this match official. But not only then when a Sethington Rollins comes out, as he has been proclaimed as the special guest referee for this match. Look, man, I've stated it so many times already over the past several days, actually. Is it better than a random triple threat? Obviously, yes, of course. If these were my only two options to where either Seth's involved in a triple threat with Drew and Punk, or he's the special guest referee with Drew and Punk, then I'll take the special guest referee. But guys, ain't no way in hell should Seth Rollins be involved in anything that CM Punk and Drew McIntyre have been doing. It's like there are so many different ways, Brian, that you can get to us to resume a Seth Rollins and CM Punk feud, as I'm sure, again, that's what this company wants to do eventually, right? All this animosity that you've built just between Drew and Punk, and at the very last second, here comes Seth Rollins and his Disney sing-along and his weird fucking clothes, just because he has a little bit of beef with Punk, and now he's going to be involved with Drew, when we don't need to see anything between Rollins and Drew. We don't need to see those two mesh up, because it's done. They had their matchup at WrestleMania. Nothing needs to be told between those two, not just from WrestleMania, but everything they've done in the past prior up to that match at WrestleMania this coming year. So it's just very odd, unless they have something, Brian, that's truly uber freaking creative, that truly does evolve, that makes Drew McIntyre look good and really does evolve this story eventually with Seth Rollins and CM Punk. But outside of that, man, it's not needed. It's just not needed at all, bro. Just because you need Seth Rollins on the card because he's your top star in the company, and you need fans up. We need that moment to where we need to sing along and cheer. Seth Rollins' theme song is going to do it for you, right? It's just, it's just like, come on, man. It's just with Seth Rollins being involved in this, Brian, it just feels like that this match is just being devalued because Seth Rollins' business has nothing to do with Drew and Punk have been doing now or what's been brewing between those two for months. It's just not needed, right? If you want to plant seeds for Rollins and Punk, that's great. Don't involve them in this match. It's just that simple. Again, there's so many different ways that you can get to Punk and Drew, or excuse me, to Rollins and Punk. And that's it, man. Brian, what are your thoughts? Is Seth Rollins, well, CM Punk being cleared and Seth Rollins being the special guest referee? Let's hear it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think it's just WWE here trying to put Seth Rollins in a spot here, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I'm glad he's not involved in the title match between Gunther and Priest, which was kind of teased, a few weeks ago. Yeah, he shouldn't really be involved in this match, but I'd rather him be the ref than in the match. My only question is, at this point, I got to say, the way I'm leaning is he's going to screw Punk over. And McIntyre's going to win this match. In which case, it's like, again, it's so then immediately, Punk has got to go after Rollins, right? Because of that. And then, so what are you just, are you just done with McIntyre and Punk here? So yeah, that's the only problem I have with it. I don't think he should be involved, but I'd rather him be the ref. And yeah, I think he's going to cost Punk the match.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned Priest and Gunther, Brian, because I'll be honest with you, if Rollins was going to be meshed in with any type of match or whatever, I would honestly rather it be Priest and Gunther. And I'll tell you why. Because with Damian Priest, right, and much love to Damian Priest, and we want what's best for Damian Priest, but you can tell that there's something lacking between Priest and Gunther in regards to intrigue from the crowd and connection from the crowd. He still doesn't have a raw, authentic connection as a face because clearly they're trying to turn him face. He's transitioning into that.
Yeah.
But clearly he's not but the key is transitioning. He's not a full-fledged face, and you're putting him in there with the heel and Gunther. And if you were to kind of, I guess, salvage that, you would honestly, Seth Rollins being involved in that somewhat makes sense because there's something's on the line, right? And B, the way that the match ended at Money in the Bank, there's a reason why Rollins would want to go after this said title. But the reason why, though, Brian, is because Seth Rollins stated, if I don't win this championship, then as long as Priest is the champion, then I'm not challenging for this title ever again.
Yeah.
So now so that's the reason why you're not seeing Rollins in this situation anyway. But if you were going to mesh Seth Rollins in anything, because he is the bigger top face than Damian Priest is as of right now, so that would have made a lot more sense because, again, there was something involved. There is a title involved, right? Because with Punk and Drew, or with Drew and Punk, there's nothing on the line, right? So there's no need for Rollins to just tell the story, to get to that story, to be involved in this. It just doesn't make sense. And because it's too big of a marquee match, right? There's a lot of people that are really interested in Drew and CM Punk and what they have to offer. And to just mesh Seth Rollins into, even when he's the referee, he kind of still feels like the third wheel. Seth Rollins in that matchup with the world title, to where, yeah, he probably won't win the match and he could probably end up maybe taking the pinfall because it wouldn't do no harm to him. But there would be a reason why a definitive reason why Seth Rollins is involved with Priest and Gunther, because it's the world title, because of how the match ended at Money in the Bank. It just would have made a lot more sense in regards to that. But this is what we got. So we'll see in regards to how this, I guess, prolongs, and we'll talk a lot more about it at the roundtable this weekend. So yeah, I just hopefully, Brian, they just have something that's uber creative to truly evolve Rollins and Punk, if that's what they're trying to accomplish. But we shall see. Let's talk about Damian Priest and Gunther real quick before we get into our next topic here. listen, Gunther and Priest, they had a brawl segment, right? And that's kind of been Triple H's MO. What's a good way to cause chaos and a little bit of intrigue? Let's freaking have people brawl, freaking in the ring, freaking backstage. And the brawl was fun. It was good. The problem is, Brian, is that we've seen so many brawl segments with the Bloodline. We've seen brawl segments with LA Knight and AJ Styles in the past. We've seen brawl segments with freaking Logan Paul and freaking LA Knight just this past SmackDown. So it's just that there's nothing original about the brawl. It's just another freaking brawl that we see every week. But on top of that, like I mentioned earlier about Priest, and I get it, they're trying to transition Priest into a face. I just don't understand how that makes that much sense, because Priest does not have an organic, authentic connection with fans to turn him face. I saw a match. I believe this is when they were at a live event in Mexico City, and he was in a matchup with Jey Uso. And I believe the crowd was chanting like bisexual Undertaker or something, or something along those lines. And he does and he's pandering to the crowd, I guess, like a face, like, oh, he's embracing what the crowd is telling him. And he's doing like Undertaker shtick, like the old school freaking on the ropes, right? And he does like, not a tombstone, but he does like a tombstone style of a look, and then it goes into like a power slam or whatever. But yet Jey Uso's also another face, so what is that doing for Jey Uso? I get it, it's a live event, but you're still performing in front of a live audience. The last thing you want to do is just confuse the fuck out of your fan base, right? So that's what I mean about this dude's booking. You're trying to transition him into a face. That's your plan, right? Especially with other wrestling fans, not just in the States, but all across the world. And you put him in there with Jey Uso. I don't understand how we're getting to this transitioning of him being a face. It makes no sense. I mean, even the segment from last week with him and Gunther, there was crickets. Nobody gave a shit, man. Hardly. You saw a few couple golf claps and cheers, and that was it. So outside of the great match that they probably are going to have, what's really drawing you between Priest and Gunther, right? Because, I mean, if the brawl segment did it for you, then hey, good for you. That's great. You're a lot more intrigued about it now than you were before. But outside of a few brawls and a few words being exchanged, what truly is there? Mm-hmm. So I don't know, man. Brian, what are your thoughts about Priest and Gunther? We'll talk more about it this weekend, but what are your thoughts about it in the segment that they had to start the show?
Yeah, and really I'll save most of my thoughts for that roundtable, because I do have a lot about both of these guys. But I'll just say the segment on Raw, I mean, the only part I really liked about it was the fact that Priest came out there, didn't say anything, and just punched him in the mouth.
That's true.
I really, even the promo from Gunther before Priest came out there, we've seen much better from Gunther. So yeah, I mean, I just wasn't really impressed with any of it, or how we got here to this match, or even Gunther's persona, since losing at Mania,
exactly.
I don't know.
It's how we've gotten here. Not just with Priest's booking, but like you said, Brian, with Gunther's booking as well. As like, he just lost the IC title, and all of a sudden we're just throwing him straight. We give him this title opportunity because he's won King of the Ring that wasn't even promoted before the fucking tournament anyway. It's just a weird dynamic of how we got here. But don't worry, it's going to be a great match, so people, they don't give a shit. But I don't know. It's very odd. Again, I mean, listen, both of these two did very well. Like you mentioned, Brian, like Priest, the least that he could have done was just like, all right. I mean, he called him what he called him freaking last week. I'm already forgetting. That's just how.
I mean, he buried this guy, or not buried in the sense of like actually, but talking about going home back to his trailer park and
trailer park trash or something. Yeah, right. She called him trailer park trash. So I guess like, there's nothing more for Damian Priest to say, so let me just punch him in the mouth. So I get it. So they're to what they've been given, and we've said this about so many talents, they're doing well what they've been given, but it's how we've gotten to this match within less than a short amount of time to gain a lot more people's interest. And if there's people that are interested in this match, that's great, good for you. But I hope that you can keep an open mind to where people like me and others are just not sold with this match at all because of how we got here.
Yeah.
But like you said, we'll talk more about it during the roundtable as well. There was also the Wyatt Six. The Wyatt Six, as they have been involved with Chad Gable and now the Creed brothers, and now Chad Gable and the Creed brothers are now officially formed this trio. They were involved in or afterwards as the Final Testament defeated Otis, Tozawa, and I believe it was Xavier Woods and somebody else I'm forgetting. Yeah, and some type of 8-man tag. Cross in the Final Testament, that's a different story for a different day. But what's weird again, Brian, in regards to how we've gotten here, in regards to Otis and Gable, right? As they were doing so well with building up that tension and animosity between Otis and Chad Gable, and it fell immediately just flat. And we thought the final payoff was going to be the Creeds getting involved or partnering with Chad Gable to depart Otis from Alpha Academy and the rest of Alpha Academy. And it's just like, oh, it's just weird. It's just like Otis is just backstage and like Gable's trying to get back on their good side. And Otis is like, nope, we're done. I said we're done and blah, blah, blah. Kind of like just giving him the side eye or whatever. It's just very fucking weird.
Yeah.
And then you use the Creeds to partner up with Gable to go after Bo and the Six. When you've built up these teases, all of us thought that this was going to be all man when freaking Otis turns on Gable, and then the re-debut of the Creeds, and they're forming with Chad Gable, and it fell so freaking flat, and the re-debuting wasn't as special as it should be. So that's one thing. But of course, the Six Men, they didn't do much with the VHSs this week, as they did one with Nikki Cross. She didn't really say anything. But I believe, again, it was, that interview type setting with Uncle Howdy and everything. So the Creeds were beating up on Otis, as well as Chad Gable was beating up on Otis alongside the Creeds. You had the Wyatt Six music hit, or again, that piano key that's on a loop. That's pretty much, I guess, their entrance. A symbol to Bray Wyatt and his recent theme song. And then you had Uncle Howdy freaking emerge behind Chad Gable, as you had the Creeds up on the top of the ramp, and you had Chad Gable in the ring, and he hits him with the Sister Abigail. Chad Gable, I'll give him credit. I mean, Chad Gable's so good. He hit that freaking Sister Abigail so beautifully. And then, the Wyatt Six stand tall over Chad Gable, and I believe the Creeds. Did the Creeds run off, Brian? I'm forgetting in regards to that, because they were at the rampway.
How did they get out? Yeah, they must have. They must have bailed, because I don't remember any of the rest of the Wyatt Six.
Right? Because they did. Yeah, because I think it was. I'm pretty sure they bailed because the rest of the Six was at the top of the stage. So and I think it was the final image was Uncle Howdy with his arms out like Bray Wyatt, and he got Chad Gable laid out. But look, Brian, what are your thoughts, Brian, in regards to the Six and this VHS and what he's got working with Chad Gable and the Creeds, man? What are your thoughts as of right now?
A couple thoughts, man. One, just I hope we do get a little more explanation with Nikki Cross, and that she's actually going to speak. So I mean, what it was last night. Yeah, that's okay. That was fine. But I hope we actually do hear from her.
Right.
And my other thing, man, so he comes out there as Uncle Howdy, delivers his Sister Abigail. And I don't really have an issue with that per se, but I had spoken about it last week about, I just hope that, I don't know. I trust all of this with them and with Bo, and I know they have a plan. I guess just in my preference, I hope that doesn't include Uncle Howdy actually wrestling. I would much prefer, if he just comes back randomly and like hits the Sister Abigail or something like that. Okay, but I just hope they keep it more as a entity, an alter ego, something in Bo's head, that doesn't really, that guides the six, that influences the six, but doesn't wrestle. So I just don't know what that means with Uncle Howdy coming out there. Are they planning on having a match where it's Gable against Uncle Howdy instead of Bo Dallas? We'll see. But so far, I mean, I like it. Even the Gable and Creed pairing. Again, that's something we've said that has had to happen here for months now. And if the feud is going to be, like again we had mentioned last week of like Rowan, Gacy, and
Loomis.
Yeah.
Loomis, Dexter Loomis.
Yeah, Loomis against the Creed brothers and
Chad Gable.
Then yeah, I'm cool with that.
Mm-hmm.
My whole thing with all of it is just that I hope Uncle Howdy remains not a wrestler.
Yeah, it's interesting. Again, I've said this for weeks now, in how they're portraying both entities of Bo Dallas as well as Uncle Howdy, right?
Yeah.
Like last week, it was just Bo Dallas. He got his ass whooped, and then the six came to his aid and sent Gable and the Creeds retreating, and then it was all of them in the ring with not Uncle Howdy, but Bo Dallas and the rest of the six. Now this week, it's Uncle Howdy, but it's not in his original getup. It's pretty much just the mask,
and the
I guess his wrestling attire. So I guess if Uncle Howdy were to wrestle,
right,
that's probably what he's going to do, and outside of like the top cap and the coat and everything. So I guess that's what they're going to do, to where Bo Dallas, it's kind of similar. I guess what they're wanting to do, right? It's like with the Fiend. Like the Fiend and like Funhouse Bray and the Fiend, and like how they're kind of two separate identities. And I guess like Bo Dallas and like his kind of like, off the rail type of personality, and you kind of mesh that with Uncle Howdy and the mask and like that alter ego, I guess. Like, you're separating Bo Dallas and the alter ego, that's Uncle Howdy, to where the wrestler, the person that's going to wrestle is Uncle Howdy with that getup that you saw take out Chad Gable this past Monday. So that seems like what they're possibly going to do, if they're going to have Uncle Howdy wrestle, because it seems like that's what they're going to do, into where I guess Bo Dallas does a lot more of like the storytelling aspect, like the segments that you saw like last week. But overall, man, I love what the six are doing. It's the most, for me, it's the most captivating thing on the show, what they're doing, for the most part. And I just hope that this just continues to evolve, and this, whatever they got planned with Gable and the Creeds, and hopefully this benefits the Creeds and Gable, because like I said, that re-debuting of the Creeds, man, was just very underwhelming. Because of what we expected from Chad Gable and Otis and that storyline, and how that just fell very flat. Yeah. So I'm on eggshells still with everything, but again, I'm very hopeful, and I trust what Bo's vision and everyone else that's involved, and what their vision of what this is supposed to be at the end of the day. So let's move on to our final topic here. Our final topic involves the ladies, as well as Dominik Mysterio. So Rhea Ripley calls out Liv Morgan. Rhea Ripley pretty much is like dragging freaking Dominik to the ring, because she's like, all right, we're settling this once and for all. Like, I'm sick and tired of this crap with you and Liv. We're settling this right now. And they like freaking with authority, like dragging Dominik to the ring. They get into the ring. Rhea Ripley calls out Liv Morgan, and Liv Morgan comes out, but she comes out through the crowd. She's in one of the sections in the crowd, and Liv Morgan talks about having feelings for Dominik. Like, she's starting to grow feelings for Dominik, and Liv Morgan says, gorgeous men like Dominik don't go for girls like Rhea Ripley. They go for girls like me. and she shows her assets. She's got a lot of assets. Just shout out to Liv Morgan. That's all I'm gonna say, because shit. So, but anyway, so Rhea Ripley's trying to go after Liv Morgan through the crowd, but freaking Dominik stops her, and like Dominik's like, all right, let me just handle this. And he just says straight up, Liv, I hate you. I can't stand you. You've ruined everything. Like, are you stupid? Are you deaf? Like, I don't care about you. You've ruined my life over and over again. He's shouting shit in Spanish. I've heard that all of that was pretty much profanity that he said, and he's kind of like blurring the lines because it's in Spanish, right?
Right.
And then that's when Morgan starts to cry. She's like in tears, sobbing as she tucks her tail between her legs and kind of walks off. Mm-hmm. And then Rhea Ripley is very pleased as she whispers something into Dominik's ear, and he licks his cheek. She licks her cheek and gives him a kiss on the cheek, and then they walk into the sunset and they're married wed. I don't know. So who knows, man? But that was your segment. So I guess Rhea Ripley and Dominik are back on the same page, or does Dominik frickin' turn on Rhea? And that's where Liv Morgan will defend this title, because it's in spite of Dominik now showing his allegiance to Liv and not Rhea. And this becomes more, because we saw, and you notice, and I noticed this before the show started, when the Judgment Day arrived to the arena, and they were pretty much separate. You had Dominik, Finn Balor, and JD McDonough all in one little group, and they were separate from the other two, which was Damian Priest and Rhea. So I don't know if that's trying to tell people something, to where Damian Priest and Rhea are going to be the baby faces that come out of this group. But there's no question that the Judgment Day, when it's all said and done, after SummerSlam is over, or at least this week of SummerSlam, and I'm talking Raw and SmackDown, this whole big week for SummerSlam, the Judgment Day is going to be done. I truly feel that way, to where, and I don't know, man, I've said this before about Finn Balor. Finn Balor and Liv teaming together. Because of the story that you can tell before they were in the Judgment Day, or at least Finn Balor before he was in the Judgment Day, when Edge was part of the group and then trying to tear them down from within. So you could kind of tell good storytelling with that, and kind of going back to that. Because, freaking obviously WWE is not creative to freaking tell this long term of a story, and said, yeah, all of this has been told within the course of 2+ years just to get to, freaking Dominik and everyone turning against each other. No. But it's something you can go back to if WWE wants to do that. And that's the reason why, Brian, maybe not Dominik and Liv truly intrigues me in what they do, but Finn Balor and Liv Morgan definitely kind of piques more of my interest, because of what they were before Judgment Day really started to emerge. And again, going back to the story, or at least some type of story that you can tell of what was transpiring years ago. So we'll see. I mean, look, I'm very hopeful in regards to it. We've spoken about it, Brian, too, last week, and how Rhea Ripley's actions and how she's come back. We thought we'd have Dominik's head on a fucking pedestal somewhere, on a fucking stick.
Right.
And freaking here she is, licking his face and kissing him, and all is good now. Interesting. So, but Brian, what are your thoughts, man, in regards to this segment, and your thoughts on potentially maybe Dominik helping Liv retain her title and turning on against Rhea Ripley? What are your thoughts, man? The floor is yours.
Oh man, so yeah, I this next week in SummerSlam, like this, I think this is all going to go down with Judgment Day and Damian Priest and Rhea and all of it. I mean, the whole reason Liv is even there, I think, is because of Finn. Finn is behind that. Mm-hmm. And you're trying to turn Rhea face, right? So you have her out there kind of, I guess, forgiving him to some degree in the moment, while Liv is, crying, walking off. look, what has Liv said from day one? You know, the only thing it's about for Liv is just taking everything from Rhea. She don't give a shit about Dom. Like the tier, you know what I'm saying? It's just about getting to Rhea. So here you have, and I guess it'll happen at SummerSlam, where Finn. I don't know how Dom plays into it. I would tend to say Dom's gonna go with Liv, but like you said, I think this is more about Finn and Liv. So
Yeah.
I don't know where Dom plays into that, but you know, Liv's true colors are coming out, Finn's true colors are coming out, and I think I would even say Finn might. I don't know, because I think Finn will cost Damian. Would he cost Rhea too? I don't know, but yeah, this all is going to come back to Finn for sure.
Yeah, and we've seen Jay and Rhea kind of have a thing too.
And that's the other thing where he keeps saying, like, he wants to go after Jay, and Rhea's like, no, what? That's
right.
Another telling point.
So that's what I mean, man. Like, eventually, like, they've already teased it with Jay and Rhea. Like, you're gonna see those two together as baby faces going after, you know,
and Priest
Dominik,
too, maybe. Like those three.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's just at the end of the day, man, like, this all comes back to Finn Balor, and I really hope that with Finn Balor, because as well as the stuff that he's been given, he's done his part. Even like Carlito, dude. Carlito is freaking tremendous.
He is, man.
Carlito is great. I mean, he's so freaking. I've said it about Carlito, and I've said this even in the early 2000s, like when his shtick with the apple and everything. It reminded me, like, almost, maybe not exactly, but almost type of like Razor Ramon-esque in regards to like his character and mannerisms. I don't know why. I just feel that way.
Totally.
But he is just
factor. Like he's like, he delivers his lines smoothly. Like the timing is good. It's just
exactly. It's like, it's the one-liners, and like you said, Brian, the timing of when he says shit. It's just so freaking funny.
Right.
It's just so good. He's becoming more of a funnier comedic act than R-Truth has been recently lately. R-Truth hasn't really been showcased on Raw ever since he lost his tag title along with The Miz and against the Judgment Day. So so dude, yeah, Carlito's been tremendous. All of these people in the Judgment Day as of late have been doing a really solid job. But now if we're trying to really up the ante with a big split and a turn from the Judgment Day as a whole, I truly do hope that this benefits Balor more than anybody, because Finn Balor was a guy when he first came here, right, with the demon character and as the babyface, right? This dude was a legit top star.
Champion.
Like, he was, and so I really hope, and even you can argue to where there's been times in the Judgment Day to where he's been almost kind of been devalued in a way. Like, he hasn't been like that top commodity star that he should be. But maybe with this turn, and if it's done right, Finn Balor can maybe get back to where, maybe not exactly, but maybe close to what he was when he first arrived in NXT and in WWE on the main roster. But that's the main thing that I hope that all of this kind of plays out, is that this truly benefits Finn Balor. And, you know, again, Liv Morgan has been doing a tremendous job in this heel run, and I'll speak more about it, and of course on the roundtable this coming week. But yeah, that's, as of right now, that seems like where WWE could potentially go, to where, like you said, Brian, to where maybe Finn maybe costs Damian Priest the title, because we assume that Gunther, there's no way you can have Gunther win the King of the Ring and then not have him win the world title. Like, what the right? It's just, that would be so weird. So you would think that Gunther is going to walk out of SummerSlam with that world title. Maybe it is despite or in spite of Finn Balor. And then you have Dominik, to where who knows how much of a role Dominik is going to play in this match, to where, you know, because it would be weird for Liv Morgan and how well she's been doing. And on the very first meeting with Rhea, she loses this title straight up, to where we would think that this is going to be more of a multi-match feud. as it should be. Because when did Liv Morgan win this title? She won it maybe about 3 months or so.
Yeah.
I would say about a little around 3 months. And just like that, she's just going to give the title back to her. Nah, man, let Liv Morgan keep doing this shtick.
Yeah.
As the heel. It's been the best work of her career. And that's saying something, at least for me, because I've always seen the potential in Liv Morgan, and I've always thought that she's done tremendous work. But now, now you see her gelling, and the promos that she's cutting and everything else is starting to come together for her. But yeah, man. So it's really, there's again a lot of hope when it comes to Raw as a whole. There's still a lot of stuff that just truly baffles me, man, especially with Dragunov, like I've mentioned, right? Sheamus and Pete Dunne, I don't know what we're doing there. They're trying to, just give me Sheamus and Bronson Reed, and I'm fine with that. And you want to insert Pete Dunne because Tyler Bate is injured, his tag partner. So now you're trying to tell some nostalgia with the Brawling Brutes, like anybody gave a shit about the Brawling Brutes. I don't know. So there's just a lot of baffling booking. The Creeds and Chad Gable, how they've just emerged has been very odd. Damian Priest and his booking as a face or trying to transition to a face is odd. But there's a lot of hope. The Wyatt Six, what Liv Morgan's doing, the story with Rhea. So we'll see. There's going to be lots to talk about. And of course, how can I forget Seth Rollins and him being a fucking referee like we talked about? But there'll be a lot more to talk about with the roundtable coming up this weekend. But Brian, your final thoughts about Monday Night Raw before we close the show?
I mean, yeah, I thought it was all right overall, man. Again, and we do this or WWE, I guess, does it every time. Well, they did tell a little bit of story, but it's kind of going to be here in cruise control next week. Maybe add a little detail here or there, but
yeah.
I think SummerSlam is going to be big, man. I do. I think it'll be big, but then there's also I don't know that necessarily means good. You know what I mean?
Well, a lot of baffling shit might happen, and I can see, and I can totally see it to where they might make it a big deal, but is it going to be booked and portrayed in the best way imaginable that makes sense and everything as a whole, right? So but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We have the round table. We will talk about SummerSlam. We got a big review for SummerSlam coming up. So no doubt you said it probably best, Brian. Right now they're in cruise control, and they've sprinkled some details here and there, but even outside of just being in cruise control, there's just still a lot of holes that just is just very odd on how we've gotten to this point. But we'll see and how SummerSlam goes and how Raw and SmackDown goes. So we'll see when we cross that bridge when we get to it. But thank you guys so much for tuning in to another edition of the Ruthless Talk podcast. Make sure you stay tuned for the SummerSlam Roundtable this weekend. It should be out sometime on Saturday. We will be recording the Roundtable as of tomorrow night. So make sure you stay tuned for it. We're talking about all of the matches. We got a bunch of good questions to talk about. There's a lot of questions for each of these matches on this card. And there's going to be a lot of good conversation. Again, a lot of new faces that I've had the pleasure, again, of meeting through TikTok and other platforms. On social media and everything else. So it'll be a good time to bring those people in. It's going to be a good conversation to talk some wrestling and SummerSlam. So make sure you guys stay tuned for it, man. You're not going to want to miss it. Stay notified and all of that fun stuff. And make sure you guys follow us on social media. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok. That is Ruthless_Talk. Make sure we are available once again on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube. Thank you guys so much as we just hit 200 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you guys so much as we continue to build this little empire that we have day by day. So thank you guys so much for hitting that subscribe button and being a part of our wrestling platform and being a part of our wrestling community. So more content is to come for all of you guys. So Brian, final thoughts before we end the show.
Man, just really looking forward to tomorrow night, man, having all our guests on and talking some SummerSlam and our thoughts about that, man. But otherwise, I mean, looking forward to SummerSlam. Like I said, I'm on the fence on if it's going to be good or not, but I do expect a lot of big things to be happening. So
yes,
yeah, looking forward to it.
Whether it's baffling or whether it's good shit, there's going to be stuff to talk about.
That's a good word for it, baffling, because I don't want to say it's not necessarily bad. It's just like, huh? Yeah,
exactly. There's going to be probably a lot of baffling shit. There's going to be a lot of good shit. There's going to be maybe some in between, but regardless, there's going to be stuff to talk about, and we will do such over the next several weeks to come. So thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode, everybody. My name is James Porcelli.
I'm Brian Thomas.
Until next time, there will be a next time. Your boys are signing off saying salute.
Peace out.
And take care, everybody. Top guys. Out.
Let's start a riot. Let's start a riot.